Here we are. We're back. We had a week off. We had to take a weekend away from the sports rush, but we are back, and we are glad you have found us. Brett Rump, Adam Lundy.
I think the intro's playing again.
We're at.
There we go. Okay, I was seeing the intro again.
Really?
Yeah, but now we're looking good.
Oh man, technology.
Sorry
I
to
thought
interrupt your
I thought
preamble
we
there.
had it. I thought we had it fine, but man, I tell you what, I got to get an IT guy to sit right here next to me to figure this show out.
No, but
Hopefully everything is okay with everybody and you're connected with us, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, X, whatever it's called. But glad you found us for the Sunday evening. Of course, Purdue and Indiana just both played basketball. And if you're a Purdue or Indiana fan, you're probably going to want a little bit of sympathy. You're not going to get it here. Both teams pretty much got what they deserved with the way they played today. But we will talk about wrapping up the season, where these two teams stand, what has to be accomplished from here on out. But last week, of course, I was traveling, had a game on Sunday, couldn't quite figure out the schedule because then I got thrown into a semi state game that I really wasn't expecting to have to go to. So I had a Saturday morning drive to Logansport. It was successful because Belmont got the win, and that put them in the state championship game. But it was to Logansport and back, then jump on a bus to Cleveland, get to Cleveland by Saturday evening, have a team dinner, some video, do my pregame interview with Coach Kaufman, and then on Sunday it's primarily get up, have breakfast, and get ready to go to the game. So, and then of course a 3.5 hour bus ride home. So not a lot of time last weekend to be able to fit in a show. So I'm glad everybody has stuck with us and glad you're joining us today. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the bell. Make sure you're always up to date with when we are jumping on here live. Usually try to do it over the weekend, generally Sunday evening if that's going to be open. But I'm hoping next Sunday evening I'll be busy. That's the Horizon League championships down in Indianapolis. So maybe I'll be occupied.
hey, we'll see. But doesn't start off in an easy fashion for the Purdue Fort Wayne men's basketball team. They're going to be headed up 6 hours or northwest to Green Bay, Wisconsin.
You ever do play by play, Adam? You want to take a 6 hour bus ride for me?
Hey, if the Dons will let me do it, I'm sure. But hey, you want someone to call your postseason game who's never called a game before?
Well, you also won't be able to see the game because there'll be some little kid standing in front of you and a couple of bars, iron bars that block the rest of your view.
Yeah, not the best vantage point. At least you didn't have last time you were up there calling a game.
Well, that's what it's going to be again because they told me that's where the visiting radio is. So it's like, okay, do I want a 6 hour bus ride to look through some iron bars like I'm in jail? And then when I do look over past the iron bars to try to see the court, which is only a part of the court, then I got these kids standing there in my way. It wasn't great. Wasn't great last trip to Green Bay. And then the Dons didn't play well on top of it, and that made me an irritable old man. So I was not in a good mood during that game. But
And then you get a
Mastodon
6 hour ride back.
yeah, Mastodons get the win, so they put themselves in a position to host a first round game. But then everything that could have gone wrong with all the other games went wrong. The Mastodons needed Oakland to take care of business at home against Detroit, rivalry game. Oakland lost at home to Detroit Mercy. That didn't help. That knocked the Dons out of the top five. So at that point, we knew it was a road game. And by the night game, it was two options. If Wright State won the game against Northern Kentucky, then it was going to be a trip to Green Bay to take on the Phoenix. But if Northern Kentucky won, then Northern Kentucky would slide into the 6 seed. Dons would fall to the 7, but they would have a trip to Oakland, which is 2-5 over their last 7 games. So and it's only about a 3-hour trip. Northern Kentucky is up by 13 points with like 5 minutes left to go in the game. Now, I was down in Indianapolis. I was doing the state championships. You were running the board.
Hmm.
I didn't have a chance to follow play by play of that, but I did look during a timeout and I saw Northern Kentucky up by 13 or 14 or whatever it was, 5 minutes to go. And I thought, oh, thank God we don't have to go to Green Bay. And then I look at it a couple of hours later, actually. I didn't even look at it right away. And Wright State won that game coming back from the 13 or 14 point deficit with time expired, a tip in by Amari Agbe, or whatever his name is. He tips it in at the buzzer on a missed layup, and that proves to be the difference in a 92-91 Wright State win. And that is what put the Dons on a bus to Green Bay. To add insult to injury, the first round is supposed to be played on Wednesday, but Green Bay got permission to move their game to Tuesday because the women, as the number one seed, were guaranteed to host a game on Wednesday, and Green Bay didn't want to play a doubleheader. They wanted to have a men's night and a women's night. And so Green Bay is having their game on Tuesday, which means less rest, long bus ride. I don't know.
It's going to be a tough one, no question about it. And like we've said,
like
this is
piling on last night. And the sad
yeah,
thing is the Dons didn't put themselves in this position. The Mastodons won the game yesterday. When you win, you're supposed to be helping your positioning. So the Dons win and they screwed themselves. They almost, it came down to last night, and if Northern Kentucky would have held on, the Dons would have the same seed that they would have had if they'd have lost against IU Indy. And they wouldn't have had to worry about a Wright State tip-in. They could have gone to Oakland, played the first round game as a 3 seed and everything, play against the Oakland as a 4 seed. And the Dons would have been a 7 seed, and who cares, right? Easier.
right.
I want to say easier matchup. It's certainly more convenient for those of us that have to arrange travel. So, but the Dons did win.
Yes. Win over IU Indy to finish out the regular season.
Rivalry game, senior night. IU Indy's one of those teams. The way they play, they shoot a lot of threes. They full court press the whole game. If they can get a little run, get a couple of steals, get a couple threes out of transition, they can really. They've beaten a couple of really good teams in our league. They haven't beaten very many, but they've beaten a couple of really good teams. And they made a run at the Dons late, but the Dons were able to hold them off and get the victory to end their Horizon League slate 11-9. The Dons swept 4 teams. They were swept by 3 teams, and they split their 2-game series during the year with 3 teams. So 4-3-3, and if you add that all up, you come out with 11-9 was the Dons' final record. We've got to talk a little bit about the Horizon League tournament. We'll do that in a couple of minutes. First, I want to talk about the high school state championships. Belmont, congratulations. 3A champs, first time ever for Belmont. And this is kids, man. This is a bunch of youngsters. 3 sophomores, 2 juniors in their starting lineup. And Belmont goes down, takes on a fairly experienced Roncalli squad, number 1 team in the state. And the Belmont Braves race out to an early lead. They were chased down. Roncalli had a lead briefly in that second half, but Belmont had the answer. And that's what shows maturity for this young group. They didn't get rattled. A big crowd, a lot of noise in the building, and Belmont kept their composure despite being so young, so inexperienced. And I'm sure it's easier for Indianapolis schools to be a little more comfortable in that building because it's right there in their town. They've probably gone to Fever games or maybe Pacer games or college games. they've probably been in the building before, so they're used to the atmosphere, the experience, the noise. But got to give credit to Belmont to handle that kind of pressure, that kind of moment, that type of stage, and come out and have the punch counter punch and get the state championship. Great, great, great job, Andy Heim and the Belmont Braves.
Yeah, and like you said, look out for the Belmont Braves in the next year or two too with the team they had. And it's like you said, there's not it was really even scoring to win that state finals game against Roncalli too. So got contributions from all of their starters. So definitely could be a perennial powerhouse brewing with the Braves. So shout out to the Blecky sisters, Krukeberg, lots of hoopers out there, man.
I don't have the final box score, but if my memory serves correct, they had two with 13, one with 12, one with 11, and then another starter that had six, I think. Um, Real good balance all the
Hmm.
way around. They didn't have to rely on one player. It wasn't Mary Blakey going off for, 28 points. And that's a little bit of what Roncalli had. Elliot Leffler, who's a terrific ball player, just a junior, but a terrific player. Inside, outside, she could do a little bit of everything. And she scored, what, 24, maybe?
22, I think.
But she scored about half of Roncalli's points. And so she was a threat. And then with 30 seconds left, while Roncalli's trying to stage a miracle comeback in the final seconds, Elliot Leffler goes down with an injury, holding her knee. Did not put weight on it at all. Got help all the way to the bench, and then got two players underneath each arm to get her out to the medal ceremony. Certainly hope she is okay, because you hate to see anybody get hurt, especially that late in a game. And so she was great for Roncalli. I know that I have been told she has an offer from some local university here in Fort Wayne, Division I school. Might narrow it down.
No, no, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah, wouldn't know. But she was really good, and the Blakey sisters, all of sophomore, um, the two of them are such a dynamic duo, and then Lainey French, wee wee, she she had a couple of big threes, couple of big buckets, and Lainey French, who I don't think I said her name more than about three times in the three or four games we covered with Belmont. But boy, she came up big in that fourth quarter. And I believe she is just a junior.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, she hit a huge three for a 48-43 lead with like 3.5 left in the game. So that's huge. That's an absolutely huge bucket in a game like that.
So congratulations to Belmont. And then the nightcap was the Norwell Lady Knights trying to do what no team had done before, and that is win a 3A title, get bumped up by success factor, win a 4A title. Norwell's a terrific basketball team, and they're as well coached as anybody in the state. Unfortunately, they do have some holes. Part of that is because they are a smaller school, 700 and some students versus all these schools in Class 4A that have 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 students. They ran into Center Grove, undefeated team. And I'll tell you this, when you're an undefeated team and you've been playing all year with the target on your back and trying to overcome all these adversities, and they won a couple of close games in their postseason, you're going to learn. You're going to learn and have that extra pressure, and you either respond to that pressure or you fold under it. And they did not fold. They were down. Norwell led for about three quarters of that game, and then a 15-0 run to start the fourth quarter. Flipped the game on its head. All of a sudden, Center Grove had the lead. They led by 10. Norwell put up a great fight in the last 2 minutes. Did everything they needed to do. Made shots, forced turnovers, picked up a couple of missed free throws from Center Grove. Did everything they needed to. Got it down to a single point but the three that could have sent it to overtime came up short. Little flat, little short. I think Macy Solfrank might have rushed it just a tad because she's like a 40% 3-point shooter. And as soon as it left her hand, you could almost tell that ball just wasn't getting there. It just didn't have the elevation it was going to need to get there. But, it's a shame to have this career come down to a missed shot and make it sound like what a disappointment. Because we really shouldn't be disappointed with what Norwell accomplished. A comeback victory over Homestead, dominant wins at the regional against Snyder, two solid wins at the semi-state. They proved their worthiness. They took an undefeated team all the way to the finish line and just didn't hit the shot they needed at the buzzer. And sometimes, a 40% shooter, that means they're a 60% misser.
Yeah.
And, 40% shooter is a great shooter, but they're still missing it 60% of the time. So that's just how the ball bounces.
It is, but like you said, nothing to hang their heads about. I mean, Class 3A champions last year and then Class 4A runners-up this year. That's fantastic back-to-back seasons for the Norwell Lady Knights. And like you said, it was a fantastic game. We were treated to two fantastic games yesterday. Really happy with what we were able to bring on the broadcasts. But it's a game of runs. And like you said, the start of that fourth quarter, I think it really just got Norwell on their heels. Kind of took them by surprise, and then they just weren't able to just get that full comeback there at the end. But credit to them, they put together a fantastic game.
So the other two games, the morning games, of course, I wasn't there for those, but Fremont had a great experience making it down to state. Unfortunately, they ran into a dynasty. Borden is, defending state champ, back-to-back 1A champs for a reason. They're just a really, really good basketball team and a great program. But Fremont got the opportunity to get there, and they earned their way there. They got an upset of the number one team in Class 1A to get down to Indianapolis, and they can't be disappointed about their season. I'm sure they're disappointed by the 20-point margin. You want to be able to compete, but nothing to be ashamed of with Fremont. And then Oak Hill, which some people are calling, I saw TV stations like Oak Hill's part of they're not in our 260. They're over by Marion. I don't think they're part of the Fort Wayne market, so I'm not going to. If they'd have won the state title, I would have not taken credit for getting a Northeast Indiana. Even if you break the state into quadrants, yeah, they're probably geographically Northeast, but they're not a Fort Wayne area school.
No, we've never mentioned them really in our coverage whatsoever. And throughout our time doing high school coverage, I wouldn't consider them part of our metropolitan area whatsoever.
So my day yesterday was get up about 8:30, drive the car over and park it in the Gainbridge parking garage.
Yep.
Got a great spot. I was like the third car from the elevator. Great spot. Then I walked from Gainbridge back to the hotel. Now, I will tell you, a few years ago, you'd have found me flat on the sidewalk, dead somewhere, with an EMS working on me, trying to revive me.
Clear.
I'd be talking about my near-death experience today. I saw a light, and then all of a sudden, boom, boom, and I was back.
You made it today, though, or on Sunday.
I mean, I made it all the way back to the hotel, no problem at all.
Yeah.
I was still breathing. I was having my coffee on the way. It was awesome. It was a beautiful morning for a long walk, about 6 blocks or whatever it was, downtown Indy. So then I got back. We had a breakfast. I got ready, headed to the game. And then after doing the Mastodons game, I had to take an Uber. And I told the Uber driver, I said, I'm going to Gainbridge, but I have to be dropped off East Side Media, this media entrance. And I don't think he spoke real good English. And he said something like he knew where it was. And I said, if you know where that is, it's on the east side. And I looked on my map and I said, I think it was Delaware Street.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And I said, it's on the east side of the building. It's right by the railroad where the railroad bridge goes across.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I know. And so we get there and he drives right past it. Right past it. Then I said, just pull over here. I can walk down the sidewalk. Oh no, I'm going to get you to that door. It took like 5, 6 extra minutes to go up and around and wait at a couple of stoplights and get back. But I did make it in plenty of time. Big thanks to Greg Rakestraw, who offered to give me a ride, but also told me he was going to be leaving like right after the game, and I have to do a post-game show. So I knew that
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to be able to catch a ride with him, but he was nice enough to offer. And so I got there, got everything set up, everything worked wonderfully, and good connection, and we were all set to go. So great hospitality as always, but good experience at the state championship.
Yeah.
Once again, you can leave comments. I don't know, wherever you're watching, you can always jump on and leave a comment. We should get the comments from all the different platforms, whether it's X, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube. Should be able to get your comments. We've got the comment box open, so let us know what's on your mind on this Sunday. All right, we got to talk some college basketball. Indiana's in trouble.
Yeah.
I thought they were a tournament team. I've got to come clear. I thought they were going to be a tournament team. Thought they had enough talent that they would finish in a position in the upper half of the Big Ten, or maybe not the upper half, but in the middle of the Big Ten, where their resume would be good enough that they would be able to get a spot in the tournament. They're not a tournament team. They're not good enough to be a tournament team.
No, especially, I mean, just looking at bracketology, this was on the 27th, so 4 days ago. They were considered the very last team in the field. And then now with another loss today, I know it's to a ranked opponent in the Michigan State Spartans, but it's a 13-point loss, another loss on your resume. And who
At
knows what the
home,
rest, yeah, at home, and who knows what the rest of the season could look like too. There's still a couple games, right?
yeah, yeah, they're not getting enough wins over teams that they might be compared against, and um, the loss to Northwestern, blowing a lead, um, and then losing, and not even really. I mean, you could say they competed. They didn't really. I mean, they could not stop anything that Michigan State did, and Michigan State, I don't think, was great today. But you could just tell they're a better team than IU.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see there's a pretty significant disparity between the two. And so I kind of feel like Indiana, what happens? Does the season just quietly end at the Big Ten tournament?
It kind of feels like it might be that way. I mean, I don't see that. Maybe do they do an NIT? I don't know. We haven't seen
The
them do that
Indiana
before.
name has lost all luster at this point. They've
As
still
far as
got a
basketball is
crown
concerned,
jewel.
yeah.
They've got a crown jewel of a home arena, but the Indiana brand, candy stripe pants, wearing that Indiana jersey, just there's no luster. The shine has worn off. It's like Adolph Rupp at Kentucky. It's like that era is now bygone, and it has no impact on today's players. There's no sense of Indiana pride. These players don't know where the bar is. Indiana
No.
fans still think the bar is really high because this is a tradition rich program with tons of success. But let's look at the program in the last 20 years. It's been a revolving door of coaches, and the team's never been good enough to meet your expectations, and the coaches have come and gone, come and gone. I think Darren DeVries is not a bad coach. Now, I might be proven wrong. I don't think he's a bad coach, but he was given the task of putting together an entire roster late in the game, and he ended up with a lot of really talented mid-major players. But you're seeing what happens to really good mid-major players when they have to go up against power conference opponents 30 times a year. A mid-major player that might play 3 or 4 power conference teams throughout the season can probably play pretty well in a couple of those. But if he's going to take the beating, the physical punishment, and the demands of a power conference schedule, it's got to be a different level of athlete. And a lot of these guys are very successful at the mid-major level, but they don't convert well. Their game doesn't translate to the higher level all that smoothly. Reed Bailey's a good example. I mean, the athletes that you're finding that are bigs that can handle him size-wise are still quick enough to defend him on the perimeter. There's nothing that he brings to Indiana that gives them an advantage, a competitive advantage at the 5 position when he's on the floor. He can be guarded on the perimeter. They're quick enough to stay with him if he tries to deck it and drive. They can box him out and push him around, and he physically has a tough time guarding a big, strong post at the other end and keeping him off the glass. And so, he's kind of the example. Mid-major, guy like that's terrific because he's taller and bigger. And a lot of the guys that are playing center are 6'8" guys that are undersized that aren't quick enough to play on the perimeter. So mid-majors turn them into centers. We see them all over mid-major basketball. Some of these guys are 6'6", 6'7". They get listed as 6'8", but they're strong enough, they're thick enough, but they're not great athletes. They can't always play on the perimeter. And so they end up being the 5-man because these teams can't get true centers, and they don't mind playing a perimeter type game. And, if you look around college basketball, tons of 6'1" guards, quick and shifty. So mid-majors are loaded with 6'1" guards. There's too many of them, in my opinion. If I put together an ideal mid-major roster, I would have no more than like 4 guards, 6'2" and under. And then I would have another 3 guards that are 6'4" to 6'6". That's where now that's very easy to say, but go out and recruit them. Good luck. Because the quantity is so much greater in 6'2" and under guys because they're all over basketball. And so, when you look at a mid-major program, you get a 6'7", 6'8" kid. He might end up being the 5-man. And he would have trouble guarding Reed Bailey because he'd stretch him to the outside. The guy's probably not a great perimeter defender, so he could get space to shoot threes, but he could also go to the basket and just by sheer height be able to reach over guys and get rebounds. Can't do that. Can't do that in the game he's playing today. So Indiana has some talent deficiencies. They're not as great as shooters as I thought they were. I said before, Tucker DeVries, one of those guys like Tim Tebow that has a great game for a certain style and a certain level, but if you take him too high, it becomes a challenge for him. And I feel like, he's a good power conference player, but he's not the star that Indiana needed him to be. He's a star if you take him to a Drake or a Missouri Valley Conference or a mid-major. He's a star. But he's not when you put him into a power conference lineup. And the star that has emerged is Wilkerson, and he's a shooter, and he can shoot you into games, he can shoot you out of games. So
Yeah. I mean, to me, it just feels like the offense is nowhere near close to balanced enough. I think Wilkerson and DeVries took 37 shots and the rest of the team took under 20. So it's just not good shot distribution. And it was just a lot of chucking today, honestly, from Lamar Wilkerson and DeVries. And they just shot enough to score a decent amount of points, but it wasn't efficient whatsoever.
Indiana also is not sharp mentally, and that more at the defensive end. I watched multiple plays where Indiana just completely had a brain fart defensively. There was one, and I can't remember who had the ball, but they were being guarded. They were having a tough time with the handle over on the left wing. The big came down as a trailer. He set up outside the top of the key. He was wanting the ball, wanting the ball, wanting the ball. I mean, he was set out there, and the guard was having a tough time trying to get it. Finally, got it over to him. Not one guy ever rotated. And the guy that was late to rotate, that was the closest one when the shot was let go, was a guy that was on the wing on the other side, which means he was playing his man 2 passes away from the basketball and completely unaware that within 1 pass, there's a guy totally unguarded. That's an automatic rotation. Okay. You can't stay on your man 2 passes away and leave a guy at the top of the key wide open for a three, especially a big that's a really good 3 point shooter. And so they're just, but those are the examples. They had another one where they didn't rotate all the way to the corner and they missed a guy in the corner. So I've kind of decided Indiana probably is not a tournament team this year, and I don't think anybody is out of line to put them as. I would not even consider them right now as a next four out or a first four out. I would consider them maybe a next four after that first four.
Mhm.
Um, but then you get to Miami, and I gotta, we've got to talk about Miami. Their resume doesn't have a lot on it. It's like somebody who went to college, had a great GPA, but they have no job experience, and you're trying to decide, do you take the guy with the experience who wasn't, all that good at college, maybe even didn't graduate in college, but he did get some good experience? Or do you take the person who excelled at college, knowing they may have a higher potential, but they have no experience to show what kind of work ethic they have or whatever? That's kind of what we've got with Miami.
Yeah.
Great roster. They dominated at the MAC. They're undefeated. Tough to keep an undefeated team out of the tournament because they're the only one in the country. Um, but their resume doesn't have enough quality wins on it to give them the net ranking to deserve a spot. What do you do if they don't win this? And I don't think, I'll be honest, right now, I don't think they win the tournament. I
They're
think
going to have.
Akron's got a real shot at them if Akron gets a rematch in the championship of the MAC. It'll be number one. It'll be a great game, must see television. The MAC championship with Akron versus Miami, but I'm not sure that Miami can beat them twice, and so I think Akron's got a real shot at them. And so the question comes up: what do you do with Miami if they get knocked off in the MAC championship?
Yeah, it's for me the comparison is it's kind of like a major league baseball team either calling up a minor leaguer that's had fantastic stats in their minor league season versus going with an experienced veteran who has proven themselves in the past but may not be having the best of all season right now. It's kind of like that. And as far as the MAC tournament goes, yeah, I mean they're going to have the target on their back. Every single of their one of their opponents is going to be the one that knocks them out and potentially knocks them out of the NCAA championships. So it's tough. It's tough. It really is tough when they don't have a quality, a high level win on their resume, no matter how many of them they've beaten.
And they don't have a gimme in the last two of the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Toledo coming into Miami. Toledo's a solid program. I don't think this year's version of Toledo is good enough to beat Miami, especially at Miami. But then they have to go to Ohio. Kind of the same situation. I'm not sure that Ohio is good enough to beat Miami just based on personnel, but it's at Ohio. And we just saw today what can happen when you go on the road, conference opponent against somebody you probably should beat, but they realize how important it is for them to beat you. And that could be the whole season on the line. You think about it, it's the last regular season game at Ohio. The Bobcats they'll be ready to roar or meow or whatever Bobcats do.
I think they do a little roar. Rick Longsworth left a comment. He said, "I wonder if Miami had the same problem as a lot of mid majors with power conference teams not wanting to play them. We've seen some of that with the Mastodons, and a lot of power conference teams don't want to play mid majors."
It is an interesting fact, Rick. Um, it's probably something we've talked about before, but scheduling has become a nightmare because, first of all, TV money rules the day. TV money isn't being spread among a bunch of mid majors. TV money is paying for the showcase matchups that you get with power conference teams, whether that's conference challenges, where you have the ACC Big Ten Challenge or whatever SEC Big 12, whatever that might be, or if it's one day showcase events like what they have at Gainbridge Fieldhouse or what they have in Las Vegas, or I know they used to do one in New Orleans where you bring in four of the bigger teams in the country and you have a couple of games, put it on national TV. There's a lot of money that backs it. You get sponsorship cash, all that. And so when you start taking the expanded conferences and adding conference games to the power conference teams, there's fewer non-conference dates available. Then you start selling out. And we already, by the way, know that Purdue will take on Gonzaga to open up next season. So that's a date where Purdue this year played a mid-major. Now, next year, we know they're opening against Gonzaga out in Las Vegas. I think it's November 3rd. That's already been announced. They just announced it this week. And so, Purdue will say, "Well, we can't open with you. We've already got this, and we've got only this date open." And so for a mid-major, let's take you through the process. You contact schools and you say, "Hey, you interested in playing us?" "Yeah, we might be interested." And they look at their schedule and they say, "Okay, I've got this date, and this date." And then the mid-major might say, we've committed to this. We're under contract with this. I mean, you may end up then debating and trying to find a date that works. Look at what happened in Milwaukee this year. The Milwaukee Panthers, part of the Horizon League, on December 29th played a conference game against the Mastodons. On December 30th, within 24 hours later, they had to be at Wisconsin to take on the Badgers at the Kohl Center. And 2 days later, had a road game at Wright State. So but that was the only way they could schedule that power conference matchup. And now with them, it was so important to try to get a game with Wisconsin because they've been trying for years. And they finally got an agreement and they just said, "Heck with it. We're going to schedule it and we'll deal with it." But you also I wonder if that led to any of the injuries. Sometimes the stress and strain of 3 games in 5 days like that, because they ended up with multiple injuries in the next couple of weeks and lost guys, ended up losing a couple of guys for the season. But they had already lost a couple of guys for the season going into that. But that was the challenge they had in putting together the schedule. And you wonder, did Miami have that issue? I don't think Miami had that because you can always get a game or two. I think Miami wanted to play at home. I think they wanted to keep it safe. Um, sometimes when teams feel like they're going to be molding a new roster, they want to be able to play teams that are like them so they know exactly what they've got going into conference and they have a chance to see them against similar competition. And Miami has a nice enough arena and maybe enough money coming in on home games that they didn't have to go out and get the pay games. Most mid majors they survive by playing the power conference teams and getting the paycheck that goes with it. Um, so yeah, it's a challenge. And the other part of that, which Rick is mentioning, is one of the other factors is there's so few open, like these power conference teams might only be scheduling 3 mid majors because everything else is booked.
Hmm.
But because of the stress and the strain and the pressure of having to play all these big schools and these high profile games, they want a couple of patsies in there. They want teams that they know they can come out and just show up and win. So what they don't want are real challenging mid majors that are going to come in and make them burn a lot of minutes from key guys when they might have just played Kansas and they've got Arizona coming up that Saturday. Um, it's tough. It is. I mean, so they'll say, well, you have to be in this window for where we want you in the net because we need quad 3 or quad 4, but we prefer quad 3, and so all of these factors go into it when these teams are trying to select, because there is a line of people in mid-major basketball that would love to be able to schedule teams like Purdue or Kansas or Duke. I mean, you're willing to get whooped by 30 or 40 to collect a really nice paycheck. And if it fits on your schedule, so be it. Um, and if you happen to pull off the upset, it's national news and your program gets all that great exposure. That was the thing. The Dons beat Notre Dame this year. We thought that was something else. Then we see Notre Dame in ACC competition, and we're like, shit, I don't know if Notre Dame could even win the Horizon League.
I would put them as favorites, but I don't know if they would win. I don't know.
But anyway, yeah, it's always a
It's
challenge.
Yeah, definitely an interesting aspect of being a mid major, but we'll see what happens as the season concludes here for the Red Hawks.
Do you happen to see the NFL Combine going on down in Indy?
No, not much of it. I saw the Mendoza interview and a couple sound bites from him talking to media. He's always great with the media, as always. Saw D'Angelo Pons do a couple drills out there on the turf. But other,
43-inch vertical, 43.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Omar Cooper ran a 4.4340. So both of them had good numbers at the combine.
yeah.
Um, I thought maybe I would run into like Jerry Jones just walking down the street.
I don't think he just walks down the street.
I
He,
thought I might catch him at the Starbucks getting a cup of coffee. Nope, didn't see JJ.
no, yeah, you might have seen Jeremiah Johnson, but
Yeah, the
not
other
the other one.
JJ.
No, they're a
Um,
little too high profile. They got to go in through the back door of St. Elmo's down to the wine cellar room that Peyton Manning had when he was there.
all right, so we've got to go through real quick. We got to talk Horizon League basketball now as we head to the postseason tournament. We now know the matchups. We know all the seeds. Everything's been sorted out. Um, and yes, Rick, big shout out to Maria Marquesano and the women getting the win against Green Bay. Back
Yep.
to back years, the women have defeated Green Bay at the Gate Center. And this year was, I mean, last year was a surprise because it was early in the season and they didn't realize just how good the Mastodons women's team was at that point. You didn't have that measurement, and they had some games where they had struggled up to the point when they beat Green Bay. But then they went on the 18-game winning streak. This year, this team's been up and down, and maybe over the last month, disappointed more than they've impressed. And so you take a Green Bay team, and you're like, "Yeah, that ain't going to go well. Not right now. We're not playing all, and They got a nice road win against Milwaukee last week on Wednesday. It was Wednesday, I think. They went to Milwaukee, got a 19-point road win, 71-52. Come back home, got a little bit of confidence, and beat they slayed the giant, Green Bay, who on the women's side, they have become kind of what I remember as the South Dakota State of women's basketball in the Summit League. It's like, those are the wins you really celebrate if you get a chance to knock off South Dakota State, because nobody beats South Dakota State. And Green Bay has kind of become that in the Horizon League. And all of a sudden, Green Bay looks a little not so invincible. They're vincible. I think we can vince them. I think if we really play well, we can vince the Phoenix.
We'll see.
But great win. All right, so the tournament, and I gotta look because I got some notes on this, and I want to go back. Okay, so here's what we've got: first round games. First of all, we've got that play-in game, and I don't know if they call it the qualifier or what they call it, but coming up tomorrow night, you've got Cleveland State hosting IU Indy. The winner will then move into the official first round of games. They will go to Wright State to take on the first place Wright State Raiders on Wednesday. Wright State finished up 15-5 in the league. I think the best way to approach the league, and I know Coach Kaufman likes to say, win your home game, split on the road. Nobody goes undefeated at home in league play. I like the idea of sweep 5 teams and split with the other 5. Don't let anybody take both games from you. Because if you sweep 5 teams in your league, that means you're picking the bottom half and you take care of business and you beat every one of them twice. Then the top half, you at least earn a split against. You're going to have a 15-5 record. 15-5 would have won you the league this year. So Wright State finishes first, 20-11 overall, a 20-win season. They got it with the tip in against Northern Kentucky. Wild game last night to end the Horizon League regular season. And it's probably fitting, isn't it, the way the league has gone, that the final game would come down to a final tip in at the buzzer to decide it, because it is so wide open going into this tournament. But let's talk about some of the teams, because Coach Kaufman has said this all year long. And we reference Coach Kaufman for those of you that might not be in Fort Wayne, because we've talked to Coach Kaufman on this show. We have Coach Kaufman interviews regularly that air. And we have the Coach Kaufman's Coaches Show that is on Tuesday nights. So we hear from him a lot. One of the things he has said all season long, this tournament and whoever wins the regular season and has the advantage in the tournament is going to be the team that's playing the best basketball in February. Well, let's look at February and let's start talking about how some of the teams have finished, because you've got a couple of teams that have finished really, really well that were in the bottom half of the league standings before they went on these runs. Wright State, they've been good from the beginning. 15-5 in the league. They're your undisputed, untied, unchallenged league champion.
Yeah.
So let's talk about who got the second seed, because they came out of nowhere. Mastodons beat them twice. They had a sub 500 conference mark. End of January, they were 6-7 in the league. And so this is a perfect example of a team that exemplifies what Coach Kaufman refers to. The team that's playing the best through the end of the regular season into the tournament. Robert Morris, the number 2 seed, they jumped all the way from like 7 or 8 up to number 2 with a 7-game winning streak. Do you know who their last loss was?
Was it Purdue Fort Wayne?
I wouldn't have asked the question if it wasn't. You're right. Good guess.
I remember that game. It's a good win.
If it was Youngstown State, I'd have had no point in asking the question. You're right. It was Purdue Fort Wayne, 83-71 back on January 31st. So they have not lost since February 1st. Um, they're 2-0 against Youngstown State. Got to think, now both games were close, but got to think having them at home, Robert Morris is going to have the advantage. Because what we're looking for here, if you're a Mastodons fan, and most of you that are watching probably are, some of you may have mixed in that cheer for another team, and that's fine. I respect that as well, and appreciate you watching. But if you're a Mastodon fan and you're sitting right now going into this tournament as a 6 seed, you know the way the bracket is, you would like to have a couple of upsets in that first round, because that then would bring some lower seeds into play, and you might be able to work your way through. If you can even beat Green Bay, then you might be able to work your way through that extra game on Sunday. I'm not sure this is going to be the one. Robert Morris has just been playing so well. Youngstown State just got pounded by Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
So Robert Morris beat Youngstown State twice. One game was 80-77. The other was 72-66. So they were both close, but definitely advantage Robert Morris. Then the 3 seed, another team that jumped up from nowhere because they got hot in February, Detroit Mercy. And in fact, to take this even further, the Mastodons, when they were regular season champions, they won like 10 games in a row from late January through February.
Yep.
And so they came from kind of nowhere. So that's why you look at these teams and they all of a sudden just slide right up, take advantage of some of the teams at the top that aren't taking care of business. And Detroit Mercy is the number 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
The Mastodons swept both Robert Morris and Detroit Mercy this year. Detroit Mercy 12-8 in league play. They're going to be hosting Milwaukee. We've talked about the Panthers. They still have plenty of skill. Stevie Elam, their freshman, has been playing terrific. And they've started to put more confidence and faith and trust in him. But it was a team that at the beginning of the season, you looked at the roster and you thought, man, they're really deep. But then you get those injuries, and 4 of your top 5 guys, 4 of your projected starting 5, they end up injured, and you lose them for the season. Now, one of them did come back, but overall, he's not playing the same. He's obviously trying to gut it out, but he's not 100%. And so, as well as Detroit Mercy is playing and going on the road and getting that win against Oakland, you have to think that Detroit Mercy is going to be a significant favorite against Milwaukee. But don't count out Bart Lundy's Milwaukee Panthers. They're the kind of team that could go on the road and surprise somebody. I don't think they can win the tournament, and maybe I shouldn't be on record saying that. But the reality is, it's just when you're having to rely on guys that would have been your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th guy on your roster, and they're the other starting lineup, it makes it kind of tough. But the Titans won both matchups against Milwaukee during the season. They won just a week ago. They won 91-86, 5-point game. That was at Detroit, I believe. So, but Detroit has won 7 of their last 9, 7-2 in their last 9 games. They were 5-6 prior to that. So you had a team that was 6-7. You have another team that was 5-6. And both those teams now are the 2 and the 3 seed. It's important being in that top 3 because you assure yourself, if you advance, of not having to play the extra game on Sunday if you're in the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
And 2 of the teams that made it were never in the top 3 up until this weekend. One team that was and lost their spot, the Golden Grizzlies of Oakland. We still remember Jack Golke firing threes against Kentucky and the big win for Oakland a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Oakland is 12-8, same record as Detroit, but they lost head to head to Detroit at the O Arena, which cost them falling behind Detroit in the seedings. And so Oakland is the number 4 seed. They will host Northern Kentucky. And it could have been Purdue Fort Wayne if Northern Kentucky would have held on and beaten Wright State, but Wright State gets that tip in. Now it's Northern Kentucky that goes to Oakland. So it's Northern Kentucky is the 7 seed going to Oakland to take on a Golden Grizzlies squad that's 2-5 over their last 7.
Hmm.
Not
quite
and
coming in hot.
Think of this. Northern Kentucky lost twice to the Golden Grizzlies this season, but the last time they met, Northern Kentucky played at the arena, lost 76-65, but did not play with L.J. Wells. He was out hurt. And L.J. Wells is a guy that can give you 15 to 20 points. Plus, he's a nice guy to have to match up against the 2 bigger players for Oakland. And so that probably was a significant loss for Northern Kentucky. I think Northern Kentucky Oakland's a 50-50 game. Either way. Could go either way. And the fact that Northern Kentucky's a 7 seed, the Dons are the 6 seed, that would be a nice thing to see if the Dons are able to win against Green Bay. Is Northern Kentucky, and I think Northern Kentucky's got a shot.
Yeah.
Green Bay, Purdue Fort Wayne. I don't know how much I want to talk about this other than I will tell you that the Mastodons lost twice to Green Bay, and it was very similar fashion. They could not start the game until it was about 7 minutes old. I don't know why. Not real sure. If their sneakers had been frozen, they had to thaw them out for the first 7 minutes. Not sure. But they were down 15-0 in the game in Fort Wayne on January 1st. They were down 21-4, down 13-0 in the game at Green Bay earlier in February.
Yeah, it can't be a repeat of what we've seen. It can't be having to dig yourself out of a hole all game because it's just not going to work. The Phoenix will overpower us, and it won't be able to come back.
Right, and so these games were very even if you took those first runs out of the equation, but you can't ignore them. I mean, they came out ready to play. They were the aggressor. They attacked, got the Dons on their heels, and the Dons had no good response. And so, got to really figure out what is the game plan. And I don't think it's about defense. I think the Dons know what they need to do to stop Green Bay's offense. I think what the Dons need to be prepared for, how do you attack the Green Bay defense? Offensively, what are you running? What shots are you looking for? Because they couldn't find shots against the Green Bay defense last time. They had to force up some real crap at the end of shot clocks because they could not break down that defense in the first 4 or 5 minutes of those games. And so I think the real practice and the real scout, since you've already played them a couple of times, you've scouted what they do offensively, I think the real scout this time is going to be the Mastodons figuring out how to attack what Green Bay likes to do defensively.
They got to change it up. I mean, they've got to, they have to have an offensive plan. Like you said, it can't be any hero ball. It can't be just isolation. It has to be plans, like you said, on how they're going to attack what they've seen so far from the Phoenix. So we'll see if they can make that happen.
Had a little bit of a rough stretch, but then they've turned it around since. They're 3-2 in their last 5. Green Bay's 5-4 in their last 9. Justin Allen is one of the keys for the Mastodons to take care of because he torched the Dons twice. 21 the first meeting, 34 in the game at Green Bay. Justin Allen is about a 6'4" guard, so he is a big physical guard that, again, the Dons like to play 3 guards, 6'3" and under. And so it creates a little bit of a matchup issue when you've got a guard that's 6'4", that you're trying to figure out which one of our guys do we put on him. Do we put a bigger player? Do we put CJ Hadnot, risk foul trouble? So we'll see how the Dons match up. But Justin Allen has been one of the keys for Green Bay in the meetings with the Mastodons. So who's hot? Coach Kaufman said the teams that are hot, those are the ones that have the advantage at this time of year. Robert Morris, we mentioned 7 straight wins. Detroit Mercy 7-2 in their last 9. Wright State is 6-3 in their last 9, and that's actually down from what they were before that. Remember, they finished 15-5 in the league. So before the 6-3, they were 9-2, and then went 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
But still, they are deserving of that number 1 spot. They've, from start to finish, they've been the best team. And in the last 7 games, Green Bay is 5-2. Now, I mentioned they're 5-4 over their last 9, but you get past a couple of those games, they're 5-2 over their last 7. Mm-hmm. Mastodons 3-2 in their last 5. Northern Kentucky 4-2 in their last 6. Milwaukee 3-2 in their last 5. Youngstown State 4-4 over their last 8. And then the teams that are maybe sliding a bit, 2 of them finished in the 10th and 11th spot in the seedings. IUI, they've lost 6 straight. Cleveland State, they've now lost 7 straight. And Oakland, which again, I think that's one of the most talented teams in the Horizon League, 2-5 over their last 7 games. So that's the way everybody stands. Early lines based on KenPom. Robert Morris, about a 6.5 point favorite over Youngstown State. Detroit Mercy, 5.5 over Milwaukee. Oakland, 3.5 over Northern Kentucky. And Green Bay, 5.5 over the Mastodons. That's based on what KenPom is telling us for a projected score.
All right, 5.5. Gotta break. Gotta do better than that, Don.
Well, at this time, you don't want to just cover the spread.
No
They
spread
don't
covering.
let you move on in the bracket if you just cover the spread.
Nope, gotta win, and it's gonna be.
We should be playing Sunday. We only lost by 4. No, got to win it. But those are the matchups. I guess who's the favorite? If you had it, now we've talked about the individual matchups, but overall tournament, who on the men's side goes in as the favorite? And clearly I can bring this up because I don't think anybody trying to speak rationally, even if you're associated with the Mastodons, would say the Mastodons are the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So it clearly will be someone else. But who is it? Is it Robert Morris?
It kind of feels like it's Robert Morris to me. I mean, we saw the success they had getting to the tournament before, so it feels like they might be poised to do it again.
Number 2 seed. But the thing is, in the 2 seed spot, they'll likely play the 3 seed. So if the 2 teams advance, that puts Detroit Mercy against Robert Morris. And Detroit Mercy is also one of the hottest teams in the league. So the 2 hottest teams would actually eliminate each other in a semifinal.
Yeah, that could be huge.
Anybody want to comment? Go ahead. Let us know who you think the favorite on the men's side should be. Talk about the women's side. I think you still have to consider Green Bay the favorite. My favorite, if I had to pick somebody, would be Youngstown State.
The Penguins.
Very balanced team. They've got rim protector. They've got post presence. They've got shooting. I don't see a lot of weaknesses in what Youngstown State does. Now, I have a small sample because I only saw them play 1 game in person. But that's an impressive roster at Youngstown State. Sophia Gregory, real deal. So I know the consensus would be Green Bay as the league champion as the favorite. But I will say my favorite, the team I think that ultimately has the best chance to win the tournament, is Youngstown State. I also believe that the Mastodons could get to a championship game. If you get the opportunity and you get the stage, anything is possible. But I look at the other teams, and I think there's a lot of parity. And I think the fact that the Mastodons just beat Green Bay, they have beaten Cleveland State. They, I just feel like the Mastodons can match up with anybody. Um, I think they can get to a championship. But I also feel like there's a lot of other teams that wouldn't completely shock me. Northern Kentucky, but yet Northern Kentucky just lost a game yesterday to the last place team that's a real head scratcher. And then you've got, um, Cleveland State. When healthy, they've got a dominant big and they've got a really spectacular guard. And so they've got a real winning combination at Cleveland State. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Comets winners tonight.
Yeah, 3-2 in overtime. All right. And then Mr. Vegas said he'll take Robert Morris to win the men's side.
It's so strange thinking that that's a team the Mastodons have not only beaten on the road, but handled fairly easily at home.
Yeah. And then Rick saying the things you've been talking about for both men and women are what make the Horizon League so much fun. It is fun. It is fun. Hey, some other Horizon League news. Did you see that Rip Hamilton's son committed to Oakland today?
Really?
Yeah. Deuce Hamilton. He's a 6'5" guard. So he's going to be playing for Oakland right outside Detroit next season, it looks like.
If you named him Deuce, you better not be shooting threes. Sounds weird saying Deuce for three.
Deuce for Trace. No, but that should be interesting. Definitely already has some Detroit connections there with his dad. So interesting, but looking forward to this tournament getting underway for both sides.
Now, I have been tweeting some things and have had people bring up questions about a couple of my tweets recently.
Elmo Fudd.
Yeah, I've turned into Elmer Fudd. I got to clarify because sometimes when you put something on Twitter, it's out of context, and so you have to explain what it is you actually meant, right?
Right.
Somebody called me out and said I contradicted myself on Twitter because at one point I talked about how important three-point shooting was. And at the same time, my next tweet or one of my tweets right around that one was that layups and free throws win basketball games. And I think both can be true. That's my point. You can't play your way out of a game by missing so many threes because when you're executing offensively, depending on what type of style you play, there's good shots, there's great shots, and then there's also bad shots. And you know me, I think a bad shot should be a turnover. I think if you don't get a clean look or a good shot, you should be charged with and you can even give them a miss. 0 for 1 from the field, but by God, I'm giving them a turnover because that was garbage. We saw a few of them last night in the state finals. I'm not going to point out specifics, but I will say there were a few shots that were just throws at the basket. There was not a prayer that there was a shot going in. So you have good shots, then you have great shots. You want to be able to get as many great shots as possible. Sometimes you have to settle for a good shot because of the shot clock. But my point is when you come down and you execute, whether it's in transition or in your half-court offense, and part of that execution is to play inside, outside, and attack and kick, but you give a guy a totally clean 10-toed three, nobody there, wide open look. My point is you can only afford to miss so many of those. You've got to keep yourself in the game, and you've got to be able to score points when you have the basketball, and sometimes they're three-point shots. But when you execute and you've got a teammate that makes a great pass or a teammate that makes the extra pass, where it maybe goes from wing to point to wing, and the wing sends it to the corner because with the rotation, you've got a wide open corner shooter. You can't miss that shot. I mean, that's perfect execution offensively, and it all means nothing if you don't finish it with a made shot. So, yes, you need to practice three-pointers because you have to finish possessions with points. And sometimes the great shot in that possession is going to be a three-point shot. My argument that I also made was that I think games are decided, and some people overlook this. The games are truly decided when you're missing layups or missing free throws. At the end of close games, you can go back and say, oh, he missed a three at the final buzzer. And I would love to be able to go through the play by play of Norwell last night because we talk about the three cost him a chance for overtime. Maybe it was a missed free throw, although they didn't miss many. But maybe it was a missed free throw. Maybe it was a bad 2-point try on a layup. And so I always feel that when you get to the rim, that is such a challenge because defenses are built to keep you from the rim. And they're also built to rotate to cause pressure on you if you do get there. If you get to the rim and you don't finish the shot, that's going to cost you. And you can only do that so often. And so my thing is you need to be able to hit your threes when you execute offensively and you get finally that wide open look where they make the extra pass and a teammate wants to feel good about giving it to you. You've got to make it, especially if you're a three-point shooter. You cannot miss that shot. And I know it's, oh, everybody's going to miss. You can't miss that shot. And the other thing is you cannot miss a layup when you attack and you get to the rim and you let a little bump or whatever cost you a layup. You've got to be able to finish through contact. There's going to be contact. That's the way defenses are created to play. You've got to be able to still score. And how many times you miss those shots versus how many times you make them. And then what you do when they do call the foul, when you go to the free throw line, ultimately those points will make a difference. And that's the teams that advance and the teams that don't finish at the rim, don't make their free throws. They're going to be packing their bags and be done for the season. That's my point on the two tweets. Layups and free throws will ultimately decide a basketball game, but you also at the same time have to be fully prepared to shoot well. And sometimes, and then, oh, the other thing I said, Adam, short practices. I've heard this from Eric Thornton, I think was the one who said it online. I've heard it from Kurt Signetti. It is a long season. Guys been playing basketball in college. They've been playing since June. Long season. And for the guys that are, especially younger guys, if you've got some first year guys, or you've got guys that are playing minutes they've never played before, it's a lot of basketball, a lot of wear and tear on the body. And my point is, when you get to this point in the season, haven't you coached every single thing that you've got in your coach's playbook? Haven't they been taught and you've practiced everything that you've got to teach? And now it's just about scouting or principles. But the most important thing is to make sure guys are strong. When you start seeing free throw percentages dropping and you see three-point percentages dropping at this time of year, what do you think it's attributed to? Tired legs. Coaches, media, when you start seeing teams that all of a sudden start missing some free throws and really good free throw shooters are missing free throws, or really open guys that have been hitting threes are missing threes, it's a good chance that it's coming from the legs, because that's the first place you see fatigue is in the legs. And it's generally in a shot because you just don't have the legs and you need them to make free throws and three-point shots. So that was my other point on short practices. Keep them well organized, focus, very have a narrow focus on exactly what it is you want to work on to improve, but you don't need to be mentally and physically wearing and draining a team that's already been through a whole year of mental and physical fatigue. And somebody asked me about that. And that's not a reference to any particular team. I want to make that very clear as well. Because I said, one of the reasons I thought about it was this is the time of year when we get into postseason play where I always have special memories of my high school team. And it's been that way for 40 some years. Our team stunk in high school. My freshman and sophomore years, we had a great varsity team at Concordia. Ricky Hall, Gary Stokes, John Nold. We had Jeff Parrish when I was a freshman. We had really talented players, and man, did we play well. Won 18 games, won 20 games, got to sectional championships, just never won. All of a sudden, along comes my bunch of losers in my class, which I thought we were really talented. But then I went out and we went 2-15 and decided maybe we weren't as good as I thought we were going to be. 2-15. And they coached us hard because they knew as freshmen we were an undefeated freshman team playing against freshmen. So it's like the talent's there. How do we bring it out? And I think finally we got to the postseason or end of the season. And I think our coaches decided these guys are useless. I'm not going to waste a bunch of my time. I'm going to be out of here at 5 o'clock every day. And so all of a sudden we had these short practices. There was no sprinting. There was no running. And they even converted us to zone defense. So we were even lazy defensively. All of a sudden we won. And then we won again. And then we won again. And the next thing you know, we won a tournament. From that point, I thought some teams are better in those kind of situations where you don't push them physically, you don't push them mentally, you just let them play, make them feel good about themselves, make them feel energized, refreshed. And it worked with us, and I've seen it work with others. And so when coaches actually come out and say, I believe in this process, like Kurt Signetti and I believe it was Eric Thornton. I am right on board. I am right with you. I believe it. I think I think too many good teams die. It could be the problem with Indiana. I don't know. I'm not behind the scenes. What's wrong with Purdue? All of a sudden, Purdue can't rebound, can't defend.
I mean, when it comes to Purdue, I feel like Matt Painter missed the mark when it came to his recruiting class for this season, because outside of Smith, Lawyer, and Kaufman-Wren, I'm just very uninspired by the rest of the roster. Nothing there at all, in my opinion. It's just they're 5-6 in their last 11 now, and it's just they're coming into the March on a pretty low note. And they gave Ohio State a win that might get them inside the bubble now. So it's just not going well. Like I said, I just feel like Matt Painter missed the mark on his recruiting class for this year.
All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the Colts and the big decisions they've got coming up. I think the big one is what to do with Alec Pierce, and you cannot afford to let Alec Pierce go to an opponent. Alec Pierce has become a multi-talented receiver where he can go downfield and catch the deep ball. You know, remember the things that we complained about Alec Pierce have been the things he's improved the most. Used to be, well, he's a vertical threat, but he wasn't much else. He couldn't run routes over the middle. He was pretty much a guy that went deep, you threw it up in the air, and then he had drops. And it's like he's not a guy that's reliable on a 50-50 ball. He's developed where the last year and a half, all of a sudden, you just throw it up there and he goes and gets it. And so I'm like, but he also has become physically more present. I don't think the Colts can afford to let him go. So I think you've got to put the tag on Pierce. Now, Mr. Vegas asking about Richardson. Well, it was announced this week that the Colts have given Richardson permission to seek a trade. The Colts are ready to move on from Anthony Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Times like these, I miss the radio show, Adam, because we go back and pull from the archives all the things I said about Richardson.
Right.
Not an accurate quarterback, not experienced. Um, Now, my guy in that draft was CJ Stroud, and he's been up, he's been down, but he has been the division winner and made it to the playoffs. So, um, resume looks a heck of a lot better than Richardson.
Mm.
But I'm not saying Stroud was the you know the end all be all, but that was where that at that draft I said Stroud was the guy you had to go get Stroud. Um, but yeah, the draft pick the draft pick ended up being a complete waste. You got a top four pick and weren't aggressive to try to get up to number one to take the pick of the guys you wanted. You were desperate for a quarterback of the future, and you were willing to put your future on Anthony Richardson. How Chris Ballard still has a job after making that decision is beyond me. One of the worst decisions ever made by a general manager that actually kept his job.
Didn't pan out. It was supposed to. It's what happens. You took your risks on a project, and the project didn't. It failed. So it's another notch against Chris Ballard there, but he'll retain his job for the upcoming season, and some decisions to be made.
What do the Colts need? Where I saw somebody put a comment about the draft. I mean, their defensive line for a general manager again that talks about building from the line of scrimmage. The defensive line has been a joke. And other than DeForest Buckner, nothing out of the defensive line.
So
And then
start
you have
there.
linebackers like Zaire Franklin. Nothing.
No.
Bad in coverage, not a run support guy, not even a guy that really likes coming up and being aggressive. I'd love to see the Colts get Aiden Fisher. I'd
That'd be cool.
get a even if he's undersized, even if he's not an NFL sized linebacker, you know what? Let him bring his attitude and his brain power to that defense. Figure out a spot for him. Maybe he's got to play a Drew Tranquil type position, little hybrid type position, where you can use him in coverage. You can also use him in run support, whatever it might be. But Aiden Fisher is a football player, and you need football players. Right now, the Colts have too much soft and not enough tough. And I think Aiden Fisher's got tough. It's like an MMA fighter, right? He just knows the game, has a nose for the football, knows how to get his teammates involved. I mean, you get this to what round would it be? Third, fourth round? I don't know if Fisher is going to be a real high pick. I haven't looked at what the analysts have said about him, but I don't think he's big enough to be a top pick at linebacker. But mid-round guy, whatever it's going to take, I'd love to see the Colts snag him.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And just going back to Franklin and Zaire, Ballard was kind of non-committal when he was asked about if Franklin would be returning for the season. He kind of just said, "We'll see." Zaire knows how I feel about him. We'll see. So we'll see.
So I guess we'll see.
We'll see, Ballard. Make some moves, man. Make some dang old moves, brother.
All right. So coming up this week, Horizon League. It is so hard to believe this is the end of the season.
Well, hopefully Tuesday's not the end of the season, but
No. I mean,
but the
end of
end
the
of the regular
season as a
season.
whole, not as an
Yeah,
individual game.
yeah. But no, I mean, we're already here in March. It's tournament time. Here we go, man. I want everybody to tune in this week and support the Dons.
Think of this. We are 5 weeks away from Tin Caps baseball.
That's crazy. That's also crazy. That's time flies, man. It's going to be April, and first pitch is going to be tossed across home plate before you know it.
All right, we'll wrap it up. We ran a little bit long, but good stuff. And then we had to make up for a week we weren't around.
Yes.
Always appreciate Mr. Vegas and Rick, of course, with the comments. Um, I'm sure this week we'll have other things and thoughts that hit our brains. So always keep an eye on the channel. We'll try to keep up with the latest and greatest. We'll post some shorts, and if you can take some time and just click through them and watch them. So yeah, Rick wants us to go 2 hours. Since we missed an hour last week, we should be paying an hour penalty this week. Not going to do it, Rick. We're done.
We're done. We're wrapping it up.
That means I would have to go back and talk about things that happened 2 weeks ago, and by now I'm not doing it. Not happening.
Nope.
Nope. Time for a Sunday night cocktail. You ever had bourbon?
I'm not a big bourbon guy.
I haven't. I have never had a bourbon, but I want to become, because it has a certain status to it, right? I want that status. If all I got to do is have a drink of bourbon. Remember all the shows where everybody in their office served bourbon when you had a meeting? I want to be that guy. I want to be able to go to a sales meeting, reach in my briefcase, and say, "Let's sit down and talk about this advertising plan." Pour a nice
on the rocks.
bourbon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I'll reach in my case. I already do that with my Pepsi. You know that, right?
Oh yeah.
My computer bag is not a computer bag. It's a Pepsi bag. There's like 3 Pepsis hiding in that bag. I'll reach in, I'll pull out a bottle of bourbon, then I'll reach in and I'll pull out some kind of little ice container and pop some ice in a cup.
Bring it back to the classy days.
I need to know from people that might be watching right now that are bourbon drinkers. I don't want to break the bank, but I need some kind of a smooth bourbon to get me started. What do I need?
There you go. Leave your bourbon recommendations for Brett.
Yeah, need some bourbon. Because at my age, I should not be a bourbon virgin.
There you go. A virgin.
I should not be a virgin. No, I feel like that's a sophisticated way to wrap up a day, right?
Yeah.
Come home, couple of cubes hit the glass. You hear the noise, then you have a little bourbon and say, "So how was your day?" Yeah.
Fancy. So yeah, definitely leave some recommendations.
All right. Rick's recommend. Oh, I thought there was blank there for a second.
He said next week will be fun.
Yeah. Well, we don't know what's going to be happening next weekend. Hopefully, we're in Indianapolis. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
You know what's crazy is because the Dons play a day before everybody else, they'll be able to have more time to plan the trip if they can get the win in Green Bay.
Yeah. But like we said, that's a big if to start with.
Yeah, they've got to do things very differently than, and it's funny because we were talking about this yesterday. That's the one thing through the season. The Dons really didn't get blown out by anybody. And then somebody said, well, the couple of games against Green Bay. And I'm like, yeah, and wouldn't you know, that's the team. Because if you think about it, the Dons were pretty competitive look at Wright State, look at Oakland. Both games were competitive. Both games got down to the last couple of minutes. Wright State, really good battle, 4-point game. They lost by 4 and they lost by 5. They were very competitive against a lot of teams. The only team that really they were kind of throttled by and got down big and never really made a run to come back, the 2 games against Green Bay. So it's got to be a totally different game. They've got to be prepared to be totally different than they've been the first 2 times against the Phoenix. All right, man. Have a great week.
All right.
We will have Mastodons basketball Tuesday night from Green Bay behind the Iron Bar.
Tune in.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us. Maybe catch up with us next week. Make sure you subscribe, like, and give that bell a little click so you're alerted when we have some kind of a program back on. We'll talk to you next week.